Hey Ed, it's Tuesday, and you know what Tuesday means? Tuesday means it's time for another episode of Muscle Matters. So in this episode of Muscle Matters, we're going to be talking about the little things that can improve your lifting as well as your muscle building. We'll be right back. On today's episode, we're going to be talking about things that can make or break your gains, your PRs, everything. It'll make it or break it. You're doing simple things, and I think one of the biggest mistakes, we always refer back to this, one of the biggest mistakes people make, Ed, is they see the genetic freaks working out, and half the time you watch these pros lift and work out, they're doing everything wrong, but they're just freaks.
Again, specificity. I use that word a lot. People will, will that work for me? Well, what are you doing? Well, first of all, when people ask me, it was like, well, have you seen the guy that's doing that? Yes. I said, well, yeah, would that work for me? Well, why are you doing it? I know why he's doing it. Yeah. Why are you doing it?
Right,
is it because you just want to copy the movement? If you want to tell me I want to try the movement to see how it feels, that's one thing. But if it doesn't align with what you're doing, why are you doing it just for the purpose of doing it?
You and I both love watching Branch Warren and Johnny Jackson work out.
Yeah.
They are beasts. But everything they're doing is horribly like, ooh.
Again,
but once again, they are the greatest of the greats. Mm-hmm. So we just simply putting that out there so you understand that when you see things on the internet, and a lot of times, rather than just say they're the greatest of the greats, Tyreek Hill.
Yeah,
Tyreek Hill is arguably one of the fastest guys in the NFL.
That's horrible form,
and it's just terrible. Wow! But he's been running like that forever.
He runs like when you tell a 5-year-old run really fast.
Yes, and nobody can catch him.
Right.
So what ends up happening is these guys can do stuff that the average person can't do, and it will trigger that muscle to grow. It'll trigger that like the form. It's like, how did he lift like that?
Right.
But it works for them.
Right.
So I remember, and you've run into this before, you tell somebody a hint and they look at you like you're crazy.
Right.
And the reason we do these things is because we don't want to see you guys fall into the pit traps and just bang your head against the wall, bang your head against the wall, bang your head against the wall, and you're trying to figure out what's going on. And you'll hear people say, well, you need to change my program because my program's not working. Okay, cool. Send me a video of your squat. Send me a video of your bench press. Send me a video of your bicep curl. Send me a video because.
Right. And again, I'd like to preface this also with it's not. I always ask the person, what are you trying to accomplish?
Yes.
Because I'm not trying to discourage anybody from learning something new.
Yeah.
You want to try it? Say, hey, can I try? Okay, well, let's see what's he doing. Okay, let's do that. Where do you feel it? What do you feel with this? And it's good. I'm not saying don't try the movement. Try it and see what it does for you. But I can promise you most of the time that guy that when you see Kai Green doing those Jefferson squats,
he didn't get those hamstrings.
That's not how he get those hamstrings. Mm-mm. The reason he's doing it now is again, he's just molding. He's just chipping away what he's already got. He didn't build that. That movement isn't really beneficial for a beginner, for a guy that's still trying to put on size.
Yes.
It's, it might work, give him a little bit more mobility and stuff, but it's not really going to do anything real tangible for somebody that's just trying to put on mass.
So what we're talking about is, I remember there was one time there was a guy and he did a full bicep workout before he did his back.
Right.
Not really smart because you fatigue the smaller muscle group when you're trying to get the larger muscle group.
Right.
So now that we're talking about back, we have this little thing right here called where's my thing at? There we go. Oh, that hand is jacked up. Kids don't do dumb things. Mm-hmm. This thumb right here is what makes us the top of this food chain and the animals, all that stuff. So when you're doing your back exercise, and we'll come back to the thumb when it comes to bench pressing, I got to get my left and my rights correct. So this thumb right here should never be right here in a back exercise. It should be over here somewhere. For whatever reason, the way we're designed, when you bring it here, you engage bicep. So Ed, you want to go a little bit deeper into how that works?
It's just okay. I'm going to make it simpler. The bicep is a supporting muscle for your back.
Well, it's the
When you're
small one.
doing-
It's the one that goes fatigue fast. And
Right. So it'll fatigue quicker. So if you already going into back training and you are trying to get either stronger or bigger, you already hamstringed yourself by fatiguing the supporting muscle.
Mhm.
I would actually, and what I always say people actually, if you want to either save time or whatever, I would do my back work first. Again, to try to do everything to not involve the bicep, which at the end of the day is still going to get some
Yes.
sort of
It's
stimulation.
a helper.
But now when you're done, your biceps sort of kind of warmed up. You can actually get away with doing some short sets
Of
instead
heavy.
of have
You can go heavy
of
right out the
heavy
gate.
stuff. Instead of coming another day and doing 20 something sets, you can get 10, 12 sets of good heavy work. And now you've stimulated the bicep, got double the stimulation because it got it during back workout
Yes.
indirectly, and now you got it directly.
And you're able to lift heavier on the
Exactly.
bicep than you would on just a bicep day alone.
Exactly.
Because now when you go over and you pick up a 40 or a 50 or a 60, it's not heavy because you finished out with 120, 220, 300, whatever the number is.
Exactly.
Your body's going, I lifted that, so this isn't heavy.
Right.
So when we talk about, man, I'm going to figure this out in a second. When we're talking about getting that thumb away, the thumb away takes the bicep out of the back movement. Now, another thing that I see people doing when it comes to back is they finish their back. Wait, where's that hand at? Man, I'm going to figure this out. They finish out their back movement like this. And now they've taken the strain because the moment you make a break, that's where they're escaping at. So now instead of coming straight to the back, you're escaping out of here. So you're missing that last little contraction because
Well, you're taking the range of motion, you're changing the range of motion. So if I'm pulling here and I pull straight back, it's a different range of motion than this. It
Mhm.
shortens the motion.
well, and what ends up
Now-
happening is because I think it's a heavy weight and they're looking to try to get all the way back and they can no longer move.
That means it's too heavy.
Rather, well, I wouldn't even call it too heavy. Rather than they're going, okay, this is as far as I can get. Squeeze.
And also, two things. You're doing that and you're unnecessarily fatiguing your forearms
Yes.
by doing flexion when
Yes.
there doesn't need to be any
Yes.
flexion. These muscles were fatigued a lot quicker than your bigger muscles.
Especially this thing.
So if you keep doing that, all you're doing is shortening your workout because that's gonna give and you're just not gonna have any more grip.
Yes.
So that's why
So-
we suggest when you're doing back to use some straps and stuff like that. But again, don't help the fatigue by curling or trying to force the weight. That's not what we're working.
Yes.
We're working your back. So straight back.
And once again, another horrible thing, they can see you better than me, Ed.
Yeah.
Another horrible thing that people do is when they go to their complete their back, instead of pulling through the elbow, they do an extended curl.
Right.
Instead of pulling through. So show a good
Again,
pull through with the
pull
elbow.
Here. You gotta pull here.
Yeah.
Pull your elbow straight. Your forearm has to be straight. You pull back instead of raising your shoulder and doing a curl.
Or finishing here.
Right. You're taking your back out of the movement.
So if you wonder why your back is not growing the way it should, it's real simple. And since we'll stay on the bicep and we'll just keep slowly but surely breaking down and down and down, we'll come from the muscle building into the power section. So when it comes to muscle building, the bicep, another common mistake people make is, once again, they shorten that elbow back and they bring it up.
Right.
And so this arm right here, they curl like this
Now you're doing a shrug.
instead of here.
Right.
And they forget to take the pinky. Real simple.
Right.
The bicep is not just a lever this way, it's a turning mechanism.
Right.
So to get maximum peak, you have to,
The both
Turn.
heads. That's what's called the bicep. That means there's two heads in there.
and so if you don't turn, the real pretty peak head never gets activated. So you
Exactly.
have to learn how to lift through the pinky.
Exactly.
And learning how to lift through the pinky means you got to put your ego to the side for a while to learn how to lift through the pinky.
Right. And I mean, even even with the bag movement, like you said, you will get. We're using the row or seated row or however you want. You will get more out of lightening the weight and doing a full range of motion than this. I see. How many people do you see at the gym? Because they can put more weight on the stack and do half a rep. But now I'm not even halfway through the movement here.
Or they finish the movement, they end up with
A back extension.
Yeah.
A back extension. They're working their lower back, not their lats.
and it's a horrible position to be working your lower back from.
Exactly. And you end up going, why is my lower back sore? My lats aren't getting any work? Because you're doing a really heavy hyperextension in the weirdest angle.
So we're going to stay with the hand. So when you're bench pressing, correct, suicide.
Right.
Now, the suicide puts all the pressure right here.
Right.
But that's where the pressure should be anyway.
Right.
Because a lot of times, like we were just talking about, the wrist rolling back. What ends up happening is when you allow too much wrist to roll back, the weight rolls back into your hand.
Right.
And when it rolls back into your hand, you spread out wide. And that's
Well,
where a lot of injuries happen, and you lose a lot of power.
And even if you are, even when you're pulling back, if your wrists are bent, you're still, the bar is off the axis. There should be, your wrist should be on top of your elbow, and your elbow should be on top of your shoulder and align with and your chest should be higher than your shoulders when you're laying down. Now, when you're doing that, what happens is the force of the weight is going in the wrong direction. So you will eventually have an issue here, or an issue here, or an issue here, because it's not traveling to the axis that the weight is supposed to be traveling to be in the best alignment possible to be effective.
And when it rolls to your hand, there's no real, like sitting in this pocket right here, there's a bone, there's density.
And there's meat there.
Yeah.
There's a lot more.
When it rolls here, there's nothing to push it with.
Right.
So you lose a big chunk of power.
Right.
Speaking of power in the bench press, something that I found out way late in life. I didn't know what a leg drive was until I actually went to NAS Power.
Right.
I had no idea what a leg drive was.
Right.
Explain how the legs work into the bench press.
No, the first way I like to describe it, and people don't, especially when I get plenty of people that come from the bodybuilding world, and then you take them to, I want to do a powerlifting meet. Okay, so let's teach you to bench for a powerlifting meet. Okay, and again, there's nothing wrong. Again, specificity.
Mm-hmm.
So the point of a powerlifting bench press is to move as much weight possible for a single rep at one time.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The bench press in relation to powerlifting is a full body movement, kind of like the squat, kind of like the deadlift. There's a pattern here.
Your back is going to hurt when it's right.
Not even that. I've had young men that I've coached that tell me my legs are sore after. Why are my quads sore the next day after we bench?
Well, you got one of the greatest bench pressers ever. He blew his quad out in a bench press.
Because I'm teaching you how to tighten those quads, how to drive with your legs, your back. And yes, most of the time they're like, man, why is my back more sore than my chest if you're teaching me how to bench? Because we're teaching you how to do it for power. And when you do it that way, it actually is. We're actually teaching you to do it mechanically as efficiently as possible. Now, when you go to bodybuilding, sometimes you want to do things in a little bit of an efficient manner because you're trying to concentrate on the muscle.
Well, that's where you see the feet up and the things like that happen.
And we use that in powerlifting too. We'll work partial movements. Some days I'll work where we're just working the triceps, so we shorten the motion. Again, we're working on overall control, so we'll take your feet out of the equation and just do upper body, and it's harder to control. So there's
now in everything at the bench press, the one thing you should do, let's say we'll get to the leg, how to explain your legs, but it's shoulders, backs, pinch, and down, and a drive down.
Yes, sir.
No matter if it's bodybuilding or powerlifting, shoulders back, pinch down, and up. That way the chest is elevated and it's in active motion. If you're flat backing and it's just a flat back, that is all front heads. And you're not reaching that.
You're not getting the chest.
Yes.
You're not getting the chest. The chest is the bigger muscle, so it needs to be up in the forefront. The shoulders need to be the supporting muscle.
Yes.
So that is not only a health to keep you healthy, it's a safety issue too.
And the same way we talked about the bicep and the forearm tiring out in a back workout, if you have your shoulders out in front,
they're going to give out before your chest.
They're giving out before your chest.
And that's when you have rotator cuff injuries, you have other things like that, and you can tear your pec because of that attachment right there.
Yes.
So it's the bench press done properly is a full body movement, should be a full body movement. Taking the leg drive, again, every good bench presser has two things: a huge back and a good leg drive.
Yes.
You've never seen a big bench presser with a small back.
Well, because it's
It's the launching pad.
that's where you tuck in, and that's where that's what's catching it for you.
Exactly.
So we'll stay upper body, shoulders. It is the most butchered thing I've ever seen in the gym. Over and over and over again. I just watch people train their shoulders absolutely wrong. And you can't fix it. And, I hate to use this statement, you can't fix stupid because stupid doesn't want to listen.
Right.
And then so I see more people take a heavy pair of dumbbells and put it right here and then just do a chicken dance. And they swear to God,
yeah, that's doing something.
They're doing side laterals and you're doing a chicken dance. So weightlifting is basic geometry.
Yeah.
It's a line. And if the line is broken, the stress is escaping. So if you're trying to work a side delt, that means the line needs to be to the side,
right?
Not doing a chicken dance,
right?
Real and then
now there's a small caveat there. There's a tiny little bit of wiggle room that I'm going to. Now, there are people because they'll have a slight shoulder impingement. They cannot have the shoulder complete right here. Now, that's perfectly fine to slightly bring it forward, slightly, not into a front delt, in between, so that you are not so impinged and allow yourself to use that lateral head.
And the reason why it's important to make sure it's as close to the side as you can get it is out of the three heads, which one do you think is the strongest?
Right.
It's the front. The front's getting used in almost every movement in some sort of way. So the front head is going to be strongest. So if you're trying to aim for the side,
right,
and you're letting it float to the front head is taking over.
Exactly.
And you're not, and you're going, well, I don't have a cap. Well, you're not hitting the side of your delts. I see people do it universally. And then the other butchered one for rear delts.
Right.
Once again, I'm gonna figure it out. It's basic geometry. If my elbow turns down or comes down, the stronger muscle is the lat.
Yeah.
And now this is a lat movement. I don't care how it movement, it's a lat movement, even. Oh, yeah. And it's a little bitty muscle.
Doesn't take that much weight.
Little bitty, tiny bitty muscle. Surrounded by two bigger, stronger muscles, the trapezius and the lats. So your traps and your lats are a lot stronger than that little bitty tiny muscle that you're trying to get.
I see these younger kids and they're trying to supposedly doing rear delt, bent over rear delt row.
And they're scratching their butt?
That, or I'm not going, man, that's a nice trap workout you're doing. Or they're doing is shrugging the weight and pulling it,
Yes.
Or doing lateral rolls. I mean, the rolls for your lats, but they're not hitting that rear delt. That is, again, a small muscle, so it doesn't require a big weight.
It's more of a muscle you want to fatigue.
Exactly.
You want to feel it burn. And then when you feel it burn, then you know that you are hitting it.
Right.
Because I hear more people that make the common complaint is I can't ever feel that muscle.
You're doing it wrong.
Yes. And we're going to go one more butchered movement. That is my pet peeve, the Arnold press.
Okay.
It is my pet peeve. It is the simplest movement in the world. It is not a two-part movement.
Right.
You don't come here and do this. This is absolutely doing nothing.
Right.
Start here, come here, and up. That is not how it goes.
Right.
It starts right here at the front.
And then just goes straight up.
It's a straight line, and it's turning.
Yeah.
And all it's doing is the Arnold press was designed to come front, and as your elbow turns out, involves the side, and as it gets to the lockout, the rear is helping stabilize it at the top.
Yeah.
Simple movement. You're not doing a fly. It's a simple movement that is constantly abused. I want to bang my head against the wall when I see it.
Right.
So now let's work down the body. Legs.
Oh, good moly.
Ed and I are very particular when it comes to legs because we did a lot of puking in trash cans. Legs.
Here's the thing about working your legs and doing it efficiently and actually either incurring growth or strength. For lack of a better term, you can't be a coward. You gotta be able to put yourself through some pain. It's gonna be uncomfortable. It could be scary. It could be, but if you do it correctly, the benefits outweigh. If you give me one exercise I would do for the rest of my life, couldn't do anything else, it would be the squat.
And it's a whole upper body.
Whole
It's a whole body.
Your whole body.
And now with the squat, before we go into leg placement and different ways, the various ways to hit the quad, and you can hit every part of the quad with the bar on your back. Before you start worrying about your sweep, before you start worrying about your teardrops, before you start worrying about these other things, build a pair of legs.
Right.
Now, along the way of building a pair of legs, you're going to notice you don't have a sweep. You're going to notice that you don't have a teardrop. You're going to notice that you don't have any inner quad. You're going to notice different things. So break it down, Ed. So I want to train my outer sweep. Where do my feet go?
Well, again,
Now, we're going to be specific. I want to train my sweep, and I'm using a squat bar.
Okay, well, we're going to start with some close stance.
Mm-hmm.
Some close stance stuff.
Now, by close stance, how close are we going, Coach?
A little bit closer than shoulder width apart.
Okay.
Now, and again, I'm doing it just as a general. Everybody's mobility is different.
Mhm.
Everybody's. Some of us have better mobility than others. Closer. Let's start with closer, a little bit closer than shoulder width apart. If you really aren't that mobile, then shoulder width apart. Try to stay as. If you stay a little bit more upright as possible, it takes more stress, a little bit more stress off the lower back.
Mm-hmm.
Upright as possible, high bar, upright as possible, and squat deep.
Okay.
Now, again, you're shaping. So take the ego out of it. Take the ego out of it and give full range of motion. That's when you see these old school pictures of like Arnold with 225, which in that context for that, and I'm not disparaging anything to squat 225, for him at that period, at that time, that's lightweight,
Mm-hmm.
and you're going butt to calves,
Mm-hmm.
as upright as possible, deep, to get full range of motion and full stimulation to that area. It's
not so much a power movement.
right.
You will gain
shaping.
strength over time, and some people will be stronger in the movement than others because
Right.
you're going to look at a
Because
person.
genetics.
Yes.
That's just it.
But it's not a movement it's not your power movement.
Right.
Keep going, Coach.
Exactly. And there's, again, if you want to give it the best, the best way to do it would be that. Now, a lot of people miss it because it's hard. It's hard, and you have to put your ego to the side. But you don't realize that if you put your ego to the side, in a few months, your legs will improve immensely without having to do a bunch of heavy
Now,
work.
people are going to argue that there are machines that help out, like the hack squat and things like
they
that.
do.
But we're not on that portion. We're not talking about what things that you can do in lieu of. So this is basically directed for people that don't have access to a lot of different equipment.
Right.
So we're going to keep it
There's
KISS.
nothing
It's
wrong.
the
There's
KISS method. Keep it simple,
Keep
stupid.
it
We're
simple,
keeping
stupid.
it simple.
just simple movements that you can do with a barbell.
Yeah.
That people think, or we've gotten away from it because we become either spoiled or there's more accessibility to
Mhm.
more equipment,
Mhm.
myriad of more equipment now than before. Like in the 70s, all they had was the barbell and maybe
Yeah,
a few Nautilus machines.
There's only so many gyms built like Dubai.
Exactly. So you can still have nice full legs with a sweep if you use a bar.
Mhm.
And they will actually last longer than building it with machines.
Now, before we start breaking the leg apart, we're going to go to the teardrop. I hear more people complain and that they don't have a teardrop, and I just always look and go, you don't go deep enough. It's simple. The teardrop is at the bottom of the movement.
Yeah. In all reality, if you are, and here's where we're going to get nitpicky. You can squat with a narrow stance, and the more your toes are pointed out, the more you're going to hit that. You're still going to hit that sweep some, but you can hit the teardrop more if you push your legs out. If you know how to do that, and again, but to do that, you need to check your pride at the door, lower the weight, and get a full range of motion.
And then there's a good old-fashioned sissy squat, but I don't want to go there because that is a different type of requirement, and that needs a visual.
Right, it needs a visual, and you honestly need to be a little more experienced. Most people I see doing it are doing it incorrectly.
Yes,
they
don't get the hips out in front.
Right, exactly.
They're sitting down, and not that those hips have to go out and over those toes.
Right.
So now let's swing to the back of the leg, Ed. Hamstring. We're staying home.
Right.
Hamstring. Give me a good way to, because the hamstring, there's a variety of different areas they hit back there.
Right.
But in order to get that big meaty chunk, Ed, what would you say? Because everybody wants to go do a lay down one or some machine, and I universally believe that the stiff leg is going to be the one that's going to put the meat back there.
I am a little partial to the stiff leg deadlift with a bar.
Mm-hmm.
With the bar, maybe even with dumbbells. Okay.
Now the correct. Let's talk about the correct way to do them, because you see people butcher that movement.
Right.
So break it down the correct way to do it to actually focus on the hamstring.
Okay. So again, you can stand with the bar. Okay. You have to keep a hinge in your hips. Okay. The best way I can describe it when I coach it is, think of keeping a slight athletic bend in your knees, okay? Not completely straight, but not completely bent like you're going to squat, like maybe a 45-degree bend in your knees.
I always tell people like ski position.
Right, like you're going to ski. Keep your back straight, okay? And as you lower the weight, don't think it's just an up and down. Yes, you're bringing the weight down, but at the same time, think of pushing your bottom back. Think of stretching that hamstring. Think of that and creating somewhat of a pendulum where the weight is moving forward. And obviously that's not going to happen because you only have a certain length of arm. But if you do that, you'll feel all the stress in your hamstring. Now, a little trick that I prefer, that I like because I can feel it more. Most people go, you go as low as you can, as low as your flexibility will allow, your mobility in your hamstrings. If you are doing it correctly, it's going to feel like your hamstring's about to rip. Okay. Now, to maintain that tension, and if you're doing it for the purposes of bodybuilding and maintain that tension, when you're going up, don't go pack up past your knee. People don't understand that concept a lot because you see people and they all stand straight up. Well, the moment you go past your knee, you disengage your hamstring and you're using your glutes and your lower back to stabilize and your quads. So if we're using it for the purpose of bodybuilding, I'm trying to stress my hamstrings as much as possible to incur growth. Keep it short. You keep it as long as you can stretch it and right under the knee, because that is the whole. You have constant tension on the muscle and you're stressing it properly.
Now a lot of people will hear this and like I tell people in bodybuilding is a sport that doesn't require a lockout.
Exactly.
It's different from powerlifting.
No.
When you lock out in bodybuilding, you're taking the stress off the muscle. You want to try and you're actually, every time you lock out, you probably lose about 1 to 2 reps.
Exactly.
So the point of bodybuilding is to keep as much stress in the muscle as possible. So you'll see shortened movements. You'll see a bodybuilder, like when you talk about Branch and Johnny,
right.
Yes, they do some horrible stuff, but they have figured out their motion for their body. And you will figure out, I like to say, you'll keep it in the pocket. And you stay in a pocket because I'm working my chest today.
Right.
I'm not working these other muscles. I don't want to come here. I want to get as much. I want to get as many repetitions as I can from my chest. I want to get as many repetitions as I can from my hamstring. So when you hear Ed say things like you're not coming all the way out in bodybuilding, the purpose is that I want to get 15 to 25 reps. I want those repetitions because the pump is probably one of the most essential things to growth. You need to get as much blood flow in there. And when blood comes nutrition, because we always talk about food.
Right.
So blood is going to be, if you're eating right and you're dieting right, the blood is going to be full of nutrition. So now it's going to get there.
Right.
The blood is going to cause the muscle to expand. What's that stupid layer? It starts with a like myofascial or whatever it is. You're getting that to actually tear away, and you're causing the DOM. So that's the DOMs you feel are the tearing of the muscle, which allows the growth.
Yes. Again, if I am bodybuilding and I'm trying to, the purpose is to grow my quads, my hamstrings, that's a perfect way to be very specific and direct. I really like it personally for the hamstrings. I think personally, in my opinion, that's one of the better movements you can do.
The other one is that stupid movement that nobody likes.
Yeah.
You hold your ankles to the ground and bring your nose down and come on back up. It's a guaranteed hamstring cramp.
Basically. But I do like leg curls. Different. I appreciate if you could do leg curls in different angles, seated, standing, laying down. It hits different and neat a little bit.
Now let's talk about the lay down curl.
Right.
So you'll see a lot of people and they'll extend their foot and they'll have their toe pointed. You want to have your foot up.
Right.
So it's just like the bicep. It's literally, if you look at the way a hamstring is shaped round like a bicep. So a hamstring is going to have a peak. And the reason why you want that foot up is because just like that pinky wants to be up, that hamstring now, when the foot is this way, it now has a tighter pull. You're getting a better contraction.
Right.
Keep going, coach.
To incur a better contraction. And that's why I would suggest, if you have the availability to do, if you're going to do leg curls after your RDLs, to do them in different angles, standing, seated, and then again, let your ego go and feel the movement. It's important. Two of the, in my opinion, two of the biggest mistakes people do is when they train anything with your posterior chain, your back or your hamstrings, it's because you can't see it. When you're benching, when you're doing biceps, when you're doing your shoulders, there's a mirror and you can see it, you can feel it, but these can be uncomfortable and you can't see your back when you're training.
Well, and we're going to switch back to back. When you're training your back, like you said, you can't see it. So now you have to close your eyes and go for a feel.
Yeah, and you can sure feel it.
In order to close your eyes and go for a feel, you got to lighten the load.
And here's the thing too.
You got to lighten the load. You can still lift heavy, but now you have to lighten the load so you can feel, okay, is my elbow in the right place? Because there'll be a lot of times you're going to be doing a pull down and your elbows have turned. You've done something because now you're trying to get it down versus sitting up chest high and squeezing in.
Exactly.
Elbows being forced. Everything is, when it comes to the back movement, everything is through the elbow.
And one thing that your back and your hamstrings have in common is that when you're training them and you train them correctly, they feel like they're going to cramp. Both times. You're getting a proper contraction and a pull down, it feels like your lats are going to cramp.
Yeah.
You're getting proper contraction for your hamstring. That's if anything, you can use it as a barometer. Am I doing this correctly?
There's been many a times where I've dropped that curl and just jumped up like no, because
you're doing it right.
I'm trying to get that contraction and that foot is turned and my hamstring goes, aha.
Exactly.
So and now let's stop hanging out in the bodybuilding. Let's swing over to powerlifting, Ed.
Okay.
Another movement I think is, and I want to go to the one that's probably the most dangerous, and everybody wants to have a PR in it. Everybody wants to have a cool story on social media in it. And it's a lever movement. So you can get away with lifting a lot through your back until your back decides that you can't lift it anymore. The deadlift.
Right.
So what are some of the things you should be doing to set up properly for a deadlift?
Okay. Well, I am just because of the way I coach, to me, the most dangerous movement out of the three is the squat. The deadlift, all you have to do is let go of the bar.
But they're not.
I know. But in all reality, you can't on the bench press, you get in trouble.
Yeah, it's coming
you need
down.
a spotter. You need a spotter. In the squat, you get in trouble. You definitely need spotters.
Mhm.
In the deadlift, you get in trouble.
Over the
Just let go of the bar. Okay. Like you said, ego or whatever, people don't. First off, again, feet but shoulder width apart.
You don't want to look like a dog pooping.
Right. And that's if you're lifting conventional.
Mhm.
We're going to address conventional right now.
Mhm.
It takes a little more technique to do, not a little more technique, a little difference in the way you view the pull when you do a sumo.
Okay.
Okay. It's a valid lift. I know people, we joke around and it's especially also schools is like, hey man, you're cheating. It's the joke and the powerlifting word. If you see somebody pulling sumo, oh, you're a cheater.
But the goal is to move the weight from us.
Right.
Yeah.
But it still takes technique and it takes mastery. But for a conventional, again, don't force your arms in or out. Just stand as natural as possible. Okay. Maybe flex your lats a little bit. And right there is where your hands should be straight down for the bar.
Now his hands are down by his knees.
Yeah. They by your side of your leg. And that's where you come down. And I guess for the lack of a better description, bend your knees, grab the bar, and just stand with the bar. Now, there's like a point of reference. When you look down, the bar should be probably about mid-foot
Mm-hmm.
before you pick it up. Eyes forward, not down. You look forward, pick a spot against a
Now,
wall
one of
or
the big
whatever.
reasons you don't want your eyes down is because with your eyes down, you're going to round your back.
Well, you're going to start looking at, again, your body follows your head.
Yes.
So if I'm looking down, it's going to tip me over. So I want to stay concentrated forward, chest as high as possible. Okay. Reach down and grab the bar. And it's literally, I don't like to overcomplicate it. It's just literally stand up. I do a lot when I coach people. I do a lot of it initially just with the empty bar to get used to the motion, and then start slowly and gently loading it. And then when you do that, that's when you start to find out, okay, once it starts getting hard, this person does this, and that's when you fix the deficiencies. But initially, you want to make it as easy as possible. It's the most, they're all, the squat and the deadlift are probably the most natural movements that we can do without a bar.
You got to get off the toilet, don't
Now, yes, but we overcomplicate it once we load it. Now,
Mhm.
it gets complicated once you load, because then you start, from whatever external issues you have, you start overcompensating and the bad habits that you get rid of.
you? A lot of people, they just, one of the most common mistakes I think causes back injuries, they come up too fast.
Exactly. You have to make sure that you're the best way. It doesn't matter whether I'm coaching a conventional.
And if you come up too fast, it's generally your head's down. I'm picturing in my mind when people come up fast, they're still looking down.
The way I like to describe the whole process is, whether it's conventional or sumo, you want to I equate it to a slinky or a shock, a shock from a car. For it to develop a big power up, you need to constrict it. You need to do this with it. So at the bottom of the deadlift, whether it's sumo or conventional, you should feel tight, because, and that's part of it. If you're facing down, you're kind of taking the pressure away from your hips. The moment you look up and do this and you're holding onto a bar, you're already creating pressure on that bar. If you're a sumo, it's already kind of jamming you onto the bar. If you're conventional, it's the same thing. You kind of already, and now you're kind of, the slinky is there. And now if you stay in the proper form, that slinky is going to go boom, and it's going to allow you to come up. Okay. So it's.
Now, there's one other thing you guys, I hear you and Evan talking about a lot, locking the lats before you go down.
Right.
Because just like, you're not thinking about it, because just like in a squat, nobody thinks about locking their core.
Right.
But you have to brace yourself in order to go down, because if you're not braced, that's a weak spot. So explain locking your lats and why it's important.
For lack of a better, it's you want your body to be a crane.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. This is my lower half. This is my upper half. So by locking your lats, I make my upper thoracic spine from here to here. I make it stiff as possible, so I don't do this. when I'm lifting the weight, Okay,
It takes
so-
the poop. It takes the dog pooping out.
and that's very important for movement efficiency. It's not necessarily so much. I've seen some. I mean, back in the day, there was a guy. If I remember correct, I think his last name was Gant, and he had a.
Oh, the black guy, right?
Yeah, he had a.
Horrible form.
But he was
Strong.
strong, and there's nothing wrong with his spine.
I don't know how.
It's just because his arms are kind of long and weird, and he had a funky. But he would start like this, but he was straightened out. Now, by the way, that's why when we train, we train to power lift and stuff. We do some movements where with the bent spine on purpose to strengthen it in that portion.
But that's with a lighter weight.
Right, with a lighter weight. But now to prevent it from injury and stuff. But for efficiency, yeah, you need it. Even for sumo or conventional, your lats need to be locked
And
in.
another reason, I mean, for lifting, another reason to lock lats is because if they're not locked, when you go to pull, what happens?
You're going to lose again. Your shoulders are going to round. You're going to lose the momentum or the power that you're trying to build up to go up. You want it to, once you start moving, you want it to be in one direction. Most of the mistake people make is they start pulling, but they're not moving the bar. It's not applicable to the bar. So what happens? Hips come up, hips go out, shoulders round off. So you're moving, but the bar's not going anywhere because you're not applying a force to the bar. When you're doing that, you're removing some sort of force for the bar. And now from a compromised position, you got to try to re-effort yourself to bring it up.
And that's when it's all in your back.
Exactly. And then that's
why I say it's
now
probably
you
one of
can-
the most dangerous movements is
now-
because
now
that's where it ends.
you can save it, obviously, if you're strong enough, but it's not biomechanically efficient. It's and again, that's when you start inviting injury. Okay.
Well, we're coming up on our 30-minute mark. We try to keep these things about 30 minutes. We're at the 45-minute mark. Ed, maybe we can come up with some more things going. Maybe we can do a part 2 if you guys would be interested in part 2.
Absolutely.
Make sure you give us, because there's a lot more to talk about still. I mean, we didn't get much to talk about it. We didn't get much into it because there's still a lot more triceps. I mean, you name it, calf muscles. Everybody wants to know why their calves don't grow, and it's a real simple reason out. Sometimes it's genetics, but there's a real simple reason why your calves don't grow. So once again, Ed, would you like to say a parting message before we shut out?
Yeah, just train specificity.
That's
Ask
a
plenty
big
of
word.
questions.
That big word got stuck, didn't it? This is Muscle Matters. We'll see you next Tuesday.